Oh, no pump. Oh my. Bro. One word to explain what just went down, absolutely transcending. That was like transcendence right there, bro. Holy. That cold plunge, dude. Oh. Dude, I had I locked in so hard for that, bro. I literally, my AirPods were in my pocket when I went in the cold plunge. I didn't even realize that, bro. I was so locked in on that. But dude, that shit was cold as fuck, bro. It was cold as fuck, but I got out and I just felt like superhuman. I feel like I just stepped in, in the fountain of youth and then went out. That's genuinely how it feels, but wow, I just feel refreshed. I feel amazing. So I'm gonna, maybe I'll rant about simplicity, maybe I'll, maybe. Oh man, I'm just feeling amazing right now, bro. But I'm gonna fill y'all in on something that I've recently been thinking more about. So prior to this, because I just got out of work, so I went straight to the gym after work, ran up the sauna cold plunge combo. First time hopping in the plunge, absolutely phenomenal. Probably gonna start doing that at least once a week, because it was, dude, yeah, I genuinely thought I was gonna die when I was in there. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was gonna die, but then I'm just sitting there counting in my head, and then it slowly dissipates. The pain, the discomfort slowly dissipates. But okay, anyway, that's not why you're here. Something I was meditating on a lot during work today, and then I was even journaling, because bro, that is how obsessed I am, right? I have an obsessive personality, and in terms of being in pursuit of my best self, trying to figure out ways to improve upon my life, how I can better align myself across the physical, mental, spiritual, that's what 2.0 is all about. Within the mental specifically, man, I will go as far as to just journal at work, in between, in my breaks, and even during lunch. I will really sit there and journal about these things that I meditate on and that I'm just thinking about all shift, because that's truly what it takes. Like, if you really want to become your best self, when you have that intention, it's like you want to direct as much attention and intention, I guess those are basically the same thing, but you get the point. You want to drive as much energy towards those things as possible. And so the whole shift, I was thinking about simplicity, because truthfully, something that has been reaffirmed to me so many times within the past few months is the idea that the simplest things are the best. I'm beginning to notice that life has this weird way of working in terms of polarity and opposites, where think about instant and delayed gratification. Isn't it kind of interesting that the things that yield the most ROI, the things that benefit us the most, don't necessarily make us feel good in the moment, but the things that actually ruin our lives, they make us feel good in the moment. They feel pleasurable in the moment. So you see this, there's this sort of dichotomy, and it's the same thing with simplicity, in that the simplest things are usually the most effective, while the complex things, things with complexity, the things that are sort of flashy and over the top, those things are actually the least effective. If anything, they're underwhelming more often than not. It's another example is nutrition and diet. The simplest foods are just the ones with one ingredient, right? You think of beef, chicken, eggs, vegetables, fruit, whatever, right? Those single ingredient foods, that is the pinnacle of simplicity within diet. And truthfully, those are the best foods. But in terms of complexity, you have these brands that make these packaged foods, and they do all this branding to make it look flashy and sexy and appealing. And then you look at the ingredients list, and you're reading there's blue 100 in there, bro. There's these weird ass ingredients in there, and it's a testament to the idea that simplicity reigns supreme. Extrapolating this into just general approach towards becoming your best self and success, something that I've struggled with so much is realizing that the simplest approaches within the pursuit of your 2.0, it's things like sticking to what works and not pivoting, not changing, maintaining the desirable frame, holding that heart posture, right? When you know that something is working in your favor, when you find the thing that is yielding the progress that you want, it's like something I've struggled with so long is that I'm always wanting to I always want to change things. I always want to switch up and change things and try and find better ways to do things, thinking that I can constantly get more and more and more, when in reality all I have to do is just double down on what I know works, right? That's conviction, right? So within simplicity, there's conviction and knowing that this works. So the simplest thing I can do in order to get the most out of it is to just spam it. To spam it. And I'm mostly speaking about this when it comes to just, the actions and the work that is required, that you need to do on a daily basis in order to progress towards that version of you. The concept I recently came up with was like the idea of like simplicity in solutions. So even more than just like how you approach your work in terms of like simply, optimizing for like the simplest thing that works. When it comes to problem solving, especially because, bro, as young men, right, or whatever age you are, bro, whatever circumstance, situation you are, it's like we are naturally problem solvers. We just want to solve problems, right? I don't know, that I guess that's just how men operate in this day and age, or just throughout history, honestly, right? But in terms of solving problems, the thing that kills progress the most is when you try to approach a simple problem with a complex solution. Or I'm gonna say that again. You try to approach a simple problem with a complex solution. For me, my current priority is, my health and my fitness. So in terms of like, for example, a lean bulk, like, okay, how can I build muscle growth? Something that I've been trying to do that I'm realizing is just like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid and completely against my own standard, which is why, it's so important that I come on here and not only give value in this regard, but, keep myself accountable and like almost like sort of call myself out for doing these things, where it's like I'm sitting there trying to do all this research and trying to, place so much logic and reasoning behind my intention to build muscle within this bulk, when in reality it's like all I have to do is just sit down and just think, set the intention right then and there, and just think to myself, how can I simply approach wanting to build muscle within a lean bulk? Okay, I sit there and immediately, increase my calories, train hard enough to create a stimulus, and that's really it. That's really all it takes to build muscle. And obviously, I'm not just doing this to build muscle, right? Obviously, there's, fat loss. There's, ensuring, I stay lean, ensuring that I, train in a way that not only is just for aesthetics, as I mentioned in the last video, but also just for overall bodily function and being able to use my physical development and carrying it over into the mental and the spiritual and just every other aspect within my life, right? But it's like, it's that simple. It's really that simple. When you sit down and you just set the intention and try to solve problems through a lens of what is the simplest way I can solve this? If I could only do one thing to get this done, what would it be? That right there forces you to just narrow down your choices to just pick the simplest one, the one that is the most effective, because that is it. Simplicity, the simple things are the most effective. You can sit here and try and build out this perfect plan, do all this research, look through the science, look through the studies, and do all these things. Or I can just trust my intuition. I can just go with my gut instinct. I can just act on my compulsions in terms of what I believe is the simplest way to approach it. And then from there, it's a matter of just doubling down on that. And calling back to what I was saying about when you find, the simplest way to become your best self, the simplest way to, progress towards that is to just find what works and stick with it. It's like you get those compulsions within the simple solutions, the simple things you need to do. And once you experiment, you play around with those ideas and you find what works, it's game time. It's game time. The ball is in your court, and all you have to do is just hold it. Right? You hold the ball and you just keep spamming points, bro. I honestly don't know where I was going with that analogy, but hopefully it makes sense, right? It's like you just have to stick with it, right? You have to stick with it because especially within my gut issues, if you guys have watched my video on gut repair and obviously, the subsequent videos where I speak about how I was able to resolve my gut issues, I was doing just exactly that. Where obviously acting on my compulsions, it's so powerful to, lean on your own intuition. But I was failing to approach it from a simple perspective, where instead I was just like getting ideas, but it was just all over the place. Or you want to be like a sniper when it comes to this shit. You want to be like a sniper, but I was being like a machine gun, just spraying, getting all these ideas and just hoping one hits. When in reality, all I had to do was just sit down and think, what is the simplest way I can resolve my gut issues, right? And literally, I was thinking about this at work. I was standing there and I thought to myself, like, wow, I wasted like all that time. And obviously, it wasn't a waste of time, right? But, obviously looking back, it seems like it was, now that I'm beginning to understand this whole idea of simplicity. But it's like, if I was experiencing these gut issues where every time I ate, I would just get bloated and I would feel like crap, the simplest thing right then and there would have literally just been, okay, stop eating. Then stop eating and you won't get bloated. And that's why I literally went on that 3-day liquid fast. I went on that 3-day liquid fast, and within a matter of days, the issues resolved themselves. Wow. Isn't that crazy? Because the simplistic approach was the most effective. It was literally as simple as me just eliminating food entirely for just a few days. But no. I told myself I was going to do all this research into like how to optimize my gut health, Oh, I have to take, I have to eat these foods. Oh, I have to do this. I have to, take walks after my meals. I have to, massage my abs. I was doing all these things, and truthfully, it was valuable because I was able to identify what didn't work. And for the things that, did work somewhat, I was able to get some value from it. But in terms of finding the most effective things, you really have to just get in your head and think like, simple. What is the simplest thing I can do? Or you have to be a sniper with it. You have to just find the target. Constantly search for that simplistic approach, because that is the path. That right there is the path towards success. It is within the simple things, the simple work. And the only reason that people struggle with this is because the simplest things are boring, right? It's boring. It's not sexy. It's not cool, right? To just do or just stick with the things that work, because naturally the human mind, it desires change. It desires, switching things up. But something you need to understand within this journey is that you need to sacrifice that urge. Right? When you begin to operate with this mindset of, trying to think simplistically, you need to sacrifice the urge to just want to change things when things are finally working out. when you finally double down on the simplistic approach and you figured out the things that work for you, the things that are progressing you in the way you want to, you have to sacrifice the urge to deviate from that. And, you know, I know this talk is all over the place, but I'm just so, you know, especially at, you know, that cold plunge got me, like, you know, a whole nother level of passionate right now, man, in terms of this talk. But it's like, it's something I struggled with for so long, and that I was always trying to make things so much more complex than they had to be. I was trying to make things so complex when all it takes is to just have that mindset of just, how can I approach this? How can I simplify my approach? How can I get the most out of this with the least, right? Less is more, right? It's principles and just things like that that make you realize that, wow, simplicity really is like a powerful thing. And it's why I definitely want to start leaning more into that within my life, and to, you know, stray away from trying to approach these problems that I have, especially, you know, within problem solving. I really want to start just asking myself, how can I answer this? How can I solve this with the least amount of, you know, friction, the least amount of mental, like, exhaustion? Because truthfully, all it takes, it should take like a second to really identify what needs to be done when you're acting on your compulsions and just filtering it through the lens of what is the simplest way. It all comes back to simplicity. But yeah, that was a bit of a rant. You know, that sauna cold plunge combo got me feeling amazing, but my mind feels like mush at the same time. So I appreciate if you got this far. You know, leave a comment, leave some feedback, whatever, however you felt about the vid. If you got value, just, yeah, I'm just enthralled within the process, baby. You know, I'm just enthralled. I'm so intent on becoming my best self, man, that there's just so much knowledge, so much wisdom to be gained within this journey. And I just feel like it's so imperative that I come on here and just document the process and just fill y'all in on anything and everything that, you know, that I'm learning about. You know, I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, see y'all. I'm gonna go home, probably smash a meal, and yeah, see y'all.